you guys' fault. Don't think it's your fault.
Well,
Money got
thanks.
spent, not for the ultimate purposes. I mean, you haven't gotten there yet.
Exactly. That's the bottom line.
And like I say, we're in a spot to where we got a piece of property and it's like, yeah, the 3 million too get you, I think, get your attention. But again, it's not that far out of line for other properties. There's properties on our list that show comp sales and stuff. So it's $168,000 an acre, but it's not really that far out of line. This also is probably one of the most popular spots, or getting to be a popular spot, because you can see all the development, like I say, behind it with all the housing and everything. I think there's this brand new apartment complex.
Yeah.
It's just being really popular. This area has been nothing for years. There was a Brahms, I think, or a Pizza Hut down there, something forever, and then all of a sudden, nothing to the river. Yeah, no, I'm not saying that's bad. All I'm saying is right now, this is one of our hot spots. This is growing and growing. But yeah, like I said, I didn't know about the commercial part of it. So that would make a lot more sense than residential, I'll be honest with you. But still, like I say, we put it on for sales price. It looked like a good sale, and that's why, we've got to 3.2. And like I say, we denied the ag from the sheer fact we got a road out there getting developed. So the use has changed.
So I'm just gonna say one last thing. Yeah, we paid 3 million too. The problem is sitting out there with no income coming off of it, the slow market. Felt like we're going in within a reasonable deal to keep it ag until such time somebody comes along, get up a building, sales tax, realize all that. But put yourself in my shoes, $45,000 a year. It adds up quick. I'm sitting out there 5-10 years. Well, I guess I'm just going to have to really start pushing those prices up, and we're going to be making people not as interested. I mean, it creates it's a lot of money. And yeah, we might have paid 3 million too for it, but also one plan on sitting on it. And that's
For a totally different purpose.
Don, the other thing I'd like you to do is look at the page beyond on this one. In other words, they gave us this because it's for residential. Isn't that the correct one that I'm looking at? I think so. This is there. Yeah, you guys can look at that map and you see where they come in to us as part of the presentation, their viewpoint, is to compare it to other properties in the area and then how much per acre do they have them on. And right now, in terms of the comps they're using, the ones that are the closest to you, you're on for $18.60 an acre. Is that right? Am I reading that right?
No, that's
no. 18.
It's on for 168,000. Yeah, well, it's a couple hundred terms between things.
Because I initially read it that way, and I didn't. But the comps then you're showing for larger pieces of property go down to 37.5 on one.
Yeah,
The only one that jumps way up, which is only a 1.34 acre, is 709,000 an acre. So what are you showing us with this? Are you
just kind of give you a comparison, because sometimes when you see 168,000 an acre, yeah, I just want to let you know that's not that far out of the market. As compared to sales over the last couple of years. Now, again, like I say, the COVID factor, my thing is, like I say, we've seen a change in the property, and that's why we changed the use to residential. And when I leave out of here, if it doesn't get approved to ag status, then we'll make it commercial, because that.
Okay. My mind, where my head is still spinning a little bit on this one is, I would be inclined to go back to ag status, but I think there's already visible change in the property, particularly the road On the other hand, I think leaving it on for the purchase price, given their current situation, sounds a little unreasonable. So I'm trying to find an equitable solution that doesn't go back to $5,500 per, and will still come up with something. What, you got a proposal, Brian?
Well, sir, I was going to try and help along that line.
Sure.
I mean, we have comps on, and I assume those are sales,
Yes, sir.
not assessments.
Yeah.
And so what I did is I just looked around the area in general and I just have some properties for you to take a look at. And this is adjacent to us. Actually has some improvements. I think there's some kind of a commercial business and I think maybe they grow turf or something there adjacent to it.
And did you break these down per acre? Is that
Well,
what
I
you're
just,
trying
you know,
to show us?
we're on for three, I'm sorry, what was our
3-2.
question? Yeah, the price per foot is,
Well, it's getting a little down.
well, just for comparison purposes, I mean, we're on for over $3 a square foot.
Yeah.
And what I'm finding in the area is, you know, anywhere from 10 cents to 91 cents. So if we're going to look for a non-ag equitable value, I think this might give you something to consider.
Sure.
If you look on the second page, it'll show you a map of where it's located. These are all right there along 121st or along Memorial. Now, the important thing, what we keep forgetting to mention here, you can make it commercial all you want. It's still zoned ag.
No, that's fine.
Yeah,
That's
and it's-
fine.
and it's
That's- but
unplatted.
That's zoned for zoning purpose. That's not.
Right.
The law.
But I mean, it still goes back to use, and the use right now is not anything other than, I mean, there is no commercial use.
Well, there's not very much ag use. And again, my
Sure,
opinion
understand.
is, you know, this, if I was a farmer and I was gonna go buy some land, I don't think it'd be this. Because one, is so expensive, and two, you know, and that's just, I mean, I know.
Just
Yeah,
just
it's-
continuing along the same argument, there's just some, a lot of them in the general area.
And what do you say about what he's showing in the general area?
Yeah, it's just, these are sales.
Close.
Yeah, these are sales occurred. I don't know if when these occurred, or if they've been developed,
The
or
last 2 years.
or if they're sitting in the same situation that my client is with $3 million on the line and no, the opportunity cost for $3 million is a lot that we're not able to use. It's sitting in dirt that really, because of the things that have happened in the last year, is not going to get developed as quickly as they anticipated. I mean, they had the road going in. I think if your question about what if it hadn't happened, I think you'd see this go. I mean, it'd be there. We'd have a road in. You'd probably have a couple of restaurants here. You got a lot of rooftops around there. So, you know, Brahms or somebody's going to come in when there's rooftops. But that isn't going to happen for a while, even though there are rooftops, simply because restaurants, I mean, they can't even find people that work in the restaurants. Anyway, something to consider is that it's not unusual in the area to be below the purchase price.
I'm willing to go along, Don, with the argument that, and Brian seems to be also moving in showing us these other exhibits that he's brought, that if we think of this as a commercial property that is at present undeveloped, to try and give them some kind of property value that you guys can tax and still feel like you're not going all the way back to ag usage. Now, my other question, and maybe you know this or you don't know the history of this property, you said, well, it doesn't look like something a farmer would buy. I agree, but how did it get on our rolls previously as agriculture?
Well, this area for years was vacant. I mean, like I said, there used to be a Pizza Hut and a Brahms, and then there was nothing almost to the river. And here in the last 5 or so years, we've got apartments, we've got
Sure.
2 neighborhoods and
Being
everything.
developed.
You know, for folks who've lived here a long time, are a little skittish about living that close to the river because of the flooding. So that was undeveloped for a long time. Now we've seen the developments come up from the other side, there's two big apartment complexes in that. And of course, Bixby has just exploded like nobody's business. So this is kind of a natural evolution of this strip here.
I have a feeling we're going to play Solomon and not try to split the baby too badly here. Not because the range of information, it says, no, you could go anyway. So we're going to be arbitrary today for you, unfortunately, guys, but maybe we can give you some relief. My own proposal, since the purchase price was 3.2, is to bring it way down. I looked at some of the others that Don showed us. And when I finally get the numbers figured out, they tend to range as little as 37.5 an acre. And then go up from there, 60, et cetera. And the smaller the acreage, the more valuable, obviously, a commercial property that you're showing is in the surrounding area. If you just went totally arbitrary and said he paid 3.2, but we'll say he's got to live with a tax burden for the time being until he gets it developed of around $1 million, that would cut his tax bill substantially by about 2/3. I personally would be comfortable with that, but what other members of the board feel.
So your figure is what, 22 million?
You know, I'm taking off, I'm saying $1 million. No, I'm going all the way down to $1 million. I don't want to go to ag value, but I am willing, what I'm doing is cutting his tax bill by 2/3.
Now, I'd like to add one thing, though. When it's platted and rezoned, it'll give the assessor will have the opportunity to, that this won't be captured at a 5% or 3%.
No, that's fine. No,
Right.
no, we're not capped.
Yeah, and going forward, this property will generate the taxes.
And once he starts developing, you guys go visit and say, okay, here's what it's really worth. And maybe you'll go back to the 3.2 then.
Exactly. Well, and like I say, the position of the assessor's office is, it's paid 3.2, but yeah, with everything going on, there might be a discount on it. I'm okay with that, but
Okay,
I just don't think ag is appropriate right there.
well, that's kind of my feeling too. I hate to put an ag on this piece of property when I think it's commercially going to be developed in the near future, when he can. I understand he's got a problem too. Anyway, that's my proposal. Is there any support for that in the board to reduce the actual assessment as a fair market value in its present condition, commercial property, $1 million? Charles, speak up. You're the auditor. I'm just a crazy old man who chairs.
Till you started talking, I was going to throw a number at 1.5.
Ruth gets to pick the number. What do you want, Ruth? I think we should.
1.5.
You like 1.5. Someone needs to move it. Gentlemen, I think this is all we can do for you today is give you a little better tax bill, but I don't think we can go back to ag states this time.
Problem is, it's almost nothing. I mean, it's neither either or.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
We're in between, so. Are we looking for a second?
I'm looking for a motion. I
I
didn't
move
make
that we
the
set the
motion.
fair market value at $1,500,000.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to set the fair market value today on this commercial property, $1.5 million. We'll vote as the roll is called to adjust.
Dr. Ketchum, Ms.
Yes,
Vanderwiller.
Yes.
Ms. Gaines.
Yes.
we set the fair market value to $1,500,000.
So if we have waving weed as high as an elephant's eye next year,
Did you put out?
waving weed as high as an elephant's eye, can we come back next year?
You can always come back. You know that.
Love to see the combine. That's.
You can come watch it.
He has a performance now, I just thought I'd go to a song.
We got to cut all the other stuff. It's pretty impressive. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to meet you. Thanks for coming. Yeah, good to see you. I'll give you a call. Yes, sir.
Job,
Jill, I think. We're going back to the top.
You know, well,
Whatever you want to do.
Charles, you can do the top now, but we gotta not have you involved going forward with 1424, right?
I thought we were gonna just go forward down, 1424 down.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now, yeah.
Oh, I just trying to figure which one was next.
Charles has got to recuse himself on most of the rest, as I understand it. So you tell us, Brian, I will read these into the record since I need to do that. I should have done it on the first one, but we caught up with each other. This is protest number 1424. It was previously, it is 2011 Midcon Acquisition LLC. The next two are those. It was on previously for $4,518,600. The assessor is proposing to leave it at that. And he says in his protest that he believes it should be adjusted down to $3,100,000. Income does not support the valuation. All right. Brian, you get to go first.
Okay, we actually had an opportunity to discuss this bill, both of the two accounts that are coming up that form the Mid-Continent Tower.
Correct.
And so we discussed those today, and I think that we were in agreement on it.
Yes, so on 1424, we agreed for an amount of $3,900,000.
$3,900,000. Okay, by agreement, let me move that. I move that we adjust this by agreement between the assessor and the tax rep of the owner to $3,900,000 even. Is there a second to my motion?
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll vote as the roll is called to adjust.
Dr. Ketchum,
Yes.
Mr. Vanderwilling, Ms. Gaines,
Yes.
This is the fair market value by agreement. And it sounds as if the next item on our agenda, which is 1425 from the same owner, and it is listed as partially exempt. Is that going to change the agreement anyway?
No, the value, it just follows the value. There's some exempt, some charitable use in the building.
Okay, it's currently on for $14,355,929. They were proposing to leave it at that. In his application, he said he wanted it to be corrected to 11 million. What is the agreement?
Sorry, Jeremy Watson, Tulsa County Assessor. We've agreed on $13,800,000.
$13,800,000 even by agreement. I so move. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. We'll vote as the roll is called to adjust to $13,800,000.
Dr. Ketchum,
Yes?
Mr. Vanderwilling.
Yes.
Well, you're not supposed to vote.
I'm not talking.
Where is the muffler? We need.
Yeah.
So you're abstaining, you say
He
you're
is
abstaining.
abstaining.
Ms. Gaines. Ms. Gaines,
Yes.
I don't know, Charles. I'm going to have to leave the room if you can't control yourself.
That's an option.
See. Okay, that one. It's an E now. Deb, but what one do you want me to, is these here? There's yours for that one.
Okay.
The next on the protest agenda is 1426, 320 South Boston LLC. It was previously on for 10 million even. He asked in his formal appeal for it to be reduced to 5 million. because the income does not support the valuation. Largest tenant in the building has given notice of their intent to move. Cost of maintaining buildings of this age and the style is higher than in new building. Is there an agreement on this one too?
I think we pretty well agree this is a no change.
Okay,
I think once that tenant's out of the building, we may come back to see you because, I mean, over the next few years with what's going on in Tulsa and new buildings, I mean, these guys are all going to just be swapping tenants. It's going to be a pretty interesting real estate or office building market. But for now, this year, the tenant's still there.
so we're voting to sustain. I move that we sustain this fair market value of 10 million by agreement. Is there a second?
Second motion.
It's been moved and seconded to sustain. We'll vote as the roll is called.
Dr. Ketchum,
Yes.
Mr. Van Dwelling,
Abstain.
Ms. Gaines,
Yes.
This is the fair market value by agreement. I don't know, Charles, whether the fact that the clerk used pink slips for this on all of your recusals was a message or? Next item is 1430 Utica Place LLC. And that's the big long one. It's all the way down to the rest of our agenda as I see it. All right. I'm going to read the first one and then I want to see what both of you say about that since it's all one economic unit, the Utica Place LLC that we're dealing with here.
It's a little complicated.
Okay, well, we will listen to your complication, that's fine. Then I will read the first one, 1430 Utica Place LLC into the record, and then you can explain whatever complications you wish the board to hear. This one was previously, oh, by the way, the address is 1824 East 22nd Place. And it was on previously for 2,102,100. In their formal appeal, they requested be reduced to 1,467,440. Valuation is out of line with competing properties. Overall valuation of $148.98 per square foot creates a competitive disadvantage when trying to lease property. One major competitor is Warren Place, which has a valuation of $104 per square foot. Utica Place and Warren Place pursue the same prospective clients, but Utica Place cannot compete on operating costs. All right, Brian, I guess you get to go first on this one, and then we'll.
Is this the correct picture for this?
Yes.
Oh, it's, okay, it's changed since I looked at it.
Okay, yeah, I hadn't
They
looked.
changed it when you looked away again.
I know. It was on
That
Boston.
looks-
They're messing with you.
Okay,
So this is just to the south of Utica Square, exit the Castle Hall.
Yeah.
Beautiful building, love the God style of the Mediterranean buildings. And the owner, you know, has really, we've had long discussions about comparable values and comparable properties. And I've been all through this building, I've been all through Warren Place, and I can appreciate what Mr. Baumgartner has to say about competing. But one thing the assessor brought to my attention, we discussed in detail, was the economies of scale between a very large office complex in South Tulsa and a midtown office complex. It's a fraction of the size. And so, you know, it doesn't make sense to try to match values with a large complex like Warren, even though I feel like Warren, when you walk through it, it's nicer than this building. But they're both very nice office complexes. So we backed off the fact of trying to go to the Warren value. And then we had other discussions, and I think on most of these that we're in agreement at this point.
And,
Dan Brown, Tulsa County Assessor's Office.
yes, Dan, explain what.
So, in coming with my approach, like Mr. Burke said, I was using the Warren Tower as basically the comparable property when doing my pro forma. So, as you can see on the second to last page was my income approach on all the parcels that were appealed. So throughout all of it, I'm using basically the same price per square foot that is comparable to a Class A office building like this one is. The only really difference that I'm using is vacancy. The Warren Tower just had a little more vacancy. And as you can see, it's coming up out throughout the board, $149.29 a square foot. So out of fairness, if the value was set above that, I lowered it down to $149 a square foot. If the value was below it, I left it alone. Now, the only property that I really drastically reduced on the last two income approaches on protest number 1434 and 1435. On 1434, I did a pro forma workup, came out to be $149 a square foot. However, it was already valued at $140.31 a square foot. Now, protest number 1435, they're exactly the same price per square foot, they're the exact same net rental square footage. So I went ahead and matched that to $140.31 a square foot. So I did drop that one below my pro forma. I know we're kind of jumping around because I guess we are kind of using it as economic unit. So on the income approach on protest number 1431, 1432. So if you look, so it is basically, this is the economic unit of 1432, I believe. Yes, so this is 1432, but it runs on economic unit 1431. So 1431 is strictly land value only. So all the improvement value is on 1432, even though it goes into 1431. And we were in agreement to reduce to protest number 1432 to bring it to $140 a square foot, which would bring the value to $8,494,500.
We're gonna need to take each of these separately.
I understand.
I just wanted to give you a chance to say, here's my overall approach.
Mhm.
But if you are, if we come to a place where Brian says, no, I can't do that one, then we'll stop and have the debate.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, I just need the numbers.
I think we're good on with.
Okay. Is that okay with you then?
Yes.
Okay. Because I just know that, once I understand your approach, you explained how you made some changes because where the number was in comparison. Some went up, some went down, maybe a little bit. Basically, we're in agreement. So beginning with our agenda number 1430, which was the one I read that was on for 2,102,100. What is the number that I am to write in there that is by agreement?
That would fall below the performance, so that should sustain.
Sustain, okay. I move that we sustain this assessment as the fair market value by agreement. Is there a second to my motion?
Second motion.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll vote as the roll is called.
Dr. Ketchum,
Yes?
Mr. Vanderwiller, Ms. Gay,
Yes.
So ordered by action of the board by agreement with the protest.
Oh,
Gather for you. Now, the next item on our agenda then is item number 1431. The assessor's previous value was $696,900. They were proposing after conform, we'll leave it there. And he says, I'm appealing the stated value, believe correct value, $696,000 as part of the $6,310,200 on two accounts. And he goes through the issues of evaluation, differing again, like I think you were explaining to Dan, the difference between building and the land values. Now, by agreement on this one, are we staying with the 6,969,00 or do we have a different number?
I believe we're sustaining strictly on land value.
Okay, we are voting to sustain. Then I move that we sustain this value of 696,600 by agreement. Is there a second to my motion?
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll vote as the roll is called to sustain.
Dr. Catchell,
Yes.
Mr. Vanderwilling, Ms. Gaines,
Yes.
We have agreed to sustain this value as fair market value by agreement. I think everything was attached there. It's- Moving on in the agenda to our next item, which is 1432. All of these are still Utica Place LLC. It says on this one that the assessor's previous value was $9,727,700. They adjusted it down, it says, to $9,058,400, but he was hoping for a lower value of $5,613,300. Similar line of reasoning as the comparison between, of course, Utica Place and Warren Place. Is there an agreement on this one?
We've agreed to come up with the new number of $8,494,500.
Okay, 8,400,000 what?
94,500.
8,494,500.
Yes.
Okay. I move that we set the fair market value by adjusting it to $8,494,500 by agreement. Is there a second to my motion?
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded to adjust. We will vote as the roll is called.
Dr. Catchell,
Yes?
Mr. Vanderwilling,
Abstain.
Ms. Gaines,
Yes.
We have adjusted this value by agreement. Moving on to the next item on our agenda, 1433, still Utica Place LLC. Previously, it was on for $1,817,200. They were proposing at the informal to reduce it to $1,754,200. He was requesting it go down to $1,122,160. For, again, the comparison with the Warren Place. Is there an agreement on this one?
Yes, we've agreed to come to the value of $1,610,000.
$1,610,000 by agreement. I move that we accept this agreement to adjust to $1,610,000 even. Is there a second to my motion?
Second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded. We'll vote as the roll is called to adjust.
Dr. Catchell,
Yes,
Mr. Vanderwilling,
Abstain.
Ms. Gaines,
Yes.
we have by agreement adjusted this value. Next is item number 1434 for Utica Place LLC. It was on previously for $2,865,400. They were proposing to leave it there. he says in his formal appeal that he thinks it should be adjusted to 2,109,848. Is there an agreed upon number?
Agreed to sustain.
You have agreed, the agreement is to sustain. I so move. Is there a second to my motion to sustain?
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded to sustain. We'll vote as the roll is called.
Dr. Ketchum,
Yes,
Ms. Van Wert,
Abstain.
Ms. Gang,
Yes.
this is the fair market value sustained by agreement.
First time I felt like I understood where everything was going in that thing. This is condos and it's by Florida. It's very confusing to work.
We have one more for Utica Place, item 1435 on today's agenda. Previously, the assessor had it on for $3,103,700. After the informal, they lowered it to $2,871,700. Whereas the appeal was to lower it to $2,123,784. Again, on the basis of the comparison, the major competitor of Warren Place. Is there an agreed number here?
Yeah, the agreement was to sustain value.
Okay,
What was that? It was
That was 1435.
and that was the $2,871,700 value. Is that your understanding, Brian? Yes. Okay. I move that we sustain the value agreed after the informal of $2,871,700 by agreement to sustain.
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll vote as the roll is called to sustain.
Dr. Ketchum,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wert,
Abstain.
Ms. Gang,
Yes.
So ordered by action of the board to sustain. Now, board members, we go back to the top of today's agenda. And that means we're dealing with item number 1318 now in our agenda. And that's Group M Investment Incorporated, a commercial property. Let me read into the record what the formal deal is, and we'll have our discussion. This property is located at 2636 East 11th Street. It was previously on for $1,261,200. They're proposing to leave it at that after the informal. In his request, he thinks it should be corrected down to $600,000 for the following reasons. The 26-room hotel that occupies most of the subject property has been operating with little occupancy during the past year. Lower level retail spaces are occupied and generate some income, but the main revenue source is the hotel, which has performed poorly. All right, Brian, I assume that like other properties we've seen, hotels and motels this year, that it's all about COVID.
Yeah, it is. And I'm sorry, I've had a great week. My sewer went out and I have a 15-foot hole in my backyard, and then these guys cut my internet connection. So I got the thing came on like at 10 after 1 as I was leaving the house. And so I got some information from the county just then, because I've been kind of down for about 3 or 4 days. Sure. So it's been a great experience. It looks like everything's okay now. So, no sewer, no internet. I mean, it was primitive. But so we had some information that came in on the property from the assessor's office. And I just really haven't had a chance to cover it, but the way I was looking at this is we do have a mixed use building. We have a little bit of retail and we have a hotel. And so what I did is I realized you all were here in a lot of hotels. And so I was taking a look at kind of trying to see what the county was doing and what the board was doing on hotels, because it's obviously probably the biggest problem in the whole economy. It's got to be the hotel and restaurant business. But all my numbers were done based on square footage, and her numbers are based on units. So I'm trying to figure out the square footage of the hotel portion of this.
I think it's 13,440 square feet is the hotel alone.
Okay, and then is there a separate value for hotel?
Yes, on the back page, I valued the hotel and then I added the retail spaces in. So I just added the two income approaches to make a total value.
Okay,
What is this hotel?
this is a Campbell Hotel over by TU. This is really Tulsa's first retail shopping area. It's a fascinating history, but the downstairs used to have like a TGNY and a Safeway in it back in like the 20s and 30s. Years later, it was Burkhart's office. Supply was in this. There used to be a big Burkhart sign. But in the interim, this thing was like an auto parts storage warehouse. But it's this gorgeous building. It's along the line of like the plaza in Kansas City. And Max Campbell, who actually I knew the guy. I used to have to run abstracts after this guy when he lived out on a farm at 61st and Yale. But he built this, and so we had this hotel, and it was the big draw was it was at the end of the trolley line, and it was like $4 for a room instead of $7 downtown. And so people would come out here on the trolley to stay in this hotel. So the upstairs and a good deal of that downstairs is like the lobby. There's a kind of an event center deal in there. But then there's retail at one end, you have a restaurant, at the other end, you have a bicycle shop. And then in between, there's like a spa and stuff. And a lot of this stuff, other stuff in there is part of the hotel operation. The income on the hotel is down 40% year over year. They've had this is not a flagged hotel. They don't have a big reservation center. They're a boutique hotel, and it's really cool because the what do you call it? The Designer Showcase came in and took this hotel over back in like 2010, maybe.
Yes.
And instead of doing a big home that year like they usually do for the fundraiser for Tulsa Public Schools, each designer did a different room. So this hotel has some really cool rooms in it. Each one of them has a different theme. I mean, there's a Leon Russell room and a cowboy room, and just there's an oil barons room. There's just all these different themes to it. But it's still an older hotel that really struggles to try to have a steady clientele, and COVID just killed it. I mean, it just knocked it dead. But what I have is I looked at other hotels and I was trying to go through and focus on the improvement value for the hotel. And because I figured the land's the land, and so I focused on buildings. And what I was finding is that a lot of the hotels that we've heard, and it's been like the Hyatt, the DoubleTree, some of these really big time hotels that are downtown, the values on these now are like in the $30 to $35 a foot range. So I haven't converted this to see what kind of value we have here. But 13,440, you're saying is a hotel?
13,440, I think, is the square foot of the hotel, yes.
What do you bet she's already worked this up?
I can work it really.
Have you had a chance to talk, Brian, to her about what she's?
No, unfortunately, we've never really worked on this together,
We spoke
so
for it.
yeah,
Because we've heard her story of the
Spiel.
year this year several times.
is it better than my sewer internet?
Just a little.
Different. So anyway, all I'm pushing on this is, we might be able to come up with a closer agreement than you might initially.
Okay, well, maybe I'll just shut up.
No, I'm not trying to predict her, but I do know she's done a lot of reductions in of the property, hotels and motel properties she's shown us. She's come in and said, hey, our problem, as you know, you've heard this story before in other years, doing these kind of properties, our problem is the cycle of travel and business and all that is cyclical. And so from my viewpoint anyway, you can't reduce dramatically because of the 1 year thing, even something because we all have our fingers crossed and our vaccinations and hoping that we're seeing it down, we see the bad downturn that we're going to see a turnaround. But she is trying to give you guys some relief.
Well, and they actually did give some relief at the beginning of the year. They went ahead and reduced it before the informals.
Yeah.
And, we still looked at the operation of the facility. The other income producer on this thing is an event center. And boy, you gotta tell you, that didn't happen this year. So, I mean, they had.
I've actually been to a couple of events there myself.
Yeah, so, okay, good. So you're familiar with the inside. It's a really
Yes.
cool hotel.
Yes, it is.
But as far as events, I mean, they really depend on weddings and things like that happening
Yes.
there. And it was really rare this year for them to have anything.
Yeah.
So it was a tough year.
Okay. Did you, I mean, I didn't mean to stop it. If you've got a number you want us to hear, we're certainly going to hear it.
Yeah, I'm just thrown because my apples are square foot and her oranges are per unit.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to make the two come together. There's a Clarion Hotel that's out in Broken Arrow that the board heard, and the improvement value on that's like at $28. The DoubleTree's at 28, and the Renaissance, which is a fabulous hotel, at 71st and Memorial. The improvement, that has a big event center. I mean, different economies of scale, because these are all huge hotels. But we're talking about an overall value there of like $30 a square foot. And
I know we've already adjusted that one this year.
yeah, I was following really what you all had heard, just to kind of see what was going on, because nothing's more impacted than these. But
Okay.
so, I mean, are we at like 22 or 23,000?
Just
You mean
again,
price per unit?
Identify yourself.
Oh, that's okay.
No, what's?
Do you want me to do my presentation now? or
Please
you-
do, go
Okay,
ahead.
okay.
Okay.
I'll try to figure out how my numbers match yours.
We'll
All
give
right.
you another shot, Brian.
I'm Tessia Davis. I'm with the Tulsa County Assessor's Office.
Thank you.
And Byron, you have the exact same thing. I just
Mhm,
think
yes.
mine's in color. There you go. Okay, so right off the bat, I just want to highlight that I have reduced this property by 24% already when compared to last year's notice value. And I did not include income from the event center or spa on site. So I made sure that's just part of my COVID valuation method this year, because it was just simply weddings didn't happen. And then I tried to use a modest price per square foot for the 3 leased retail spaces on site. It's really hard to do look at price per square foot and also look at price per unit in a hotel that is so small with only 26 rooms. That's going to skew the price per unit upward. It's also going to skew the price per square foot a little bit upward, but it's a 26 there's 26 luxury rooms, and the ADR was advertised between $100 and $250 a night last year. Today's ad says $159, and you'll see on my third page, I only valued it $115 a night. There's a hotel, a full restaurant, a hotel bar, a spa. There's wedding venue options, meeting space options, the bike shop, which I understand they probably just get a basic rent on that bike shop, but bike shops, they were the best business to be in this year. Everyone bought a bike because that was all we could do. And then on the right side, I've highlighted kind of just how special and convenient this location is. I love this property too. So it's right on Route 66. We have Motherhead Market right there, Cherry Street, and the University of Tulsa. I always say it's the perfect destination for like an ultimate Americana road trip. And it was positively rated over 120 times during COVID, kind of for that reason. It was a great place to stop along the way. It was small. I guess COVID was somewhat contained there. So that's really all I have on the first page. My little picture in the top right corner kind of breaks down how this building goes. So the bike shop on the left, the spa, and then the hotel on both the first and second floors, and then the restaurant, which the restaurant seems to be doing pretty well as well. On the second page is, you know, my song and dance that's always on every packet I have. Every single hotel in Tulsa County was looked at regardless of VI cycle. All income pro formas utilized no greater than a 50% occupancy rate, and there was a reduced range of cap rates. On average, via the Tulsa County Assessor's Office, hotels received a 15 to 20% reduction. It was really more like a 15 to 30% reduction, as we can see in those huge luxury hotels. They received about a 30% reduction. Right now, we're already at a 24% reduction, and Mr. Bird at $600,000, that would be a 64% reduction request, but I think that he's trying to figure out a different number there. So that's just kind of how I value properties this year in the hospitality sector. On page 3 is my income pro forma. I use the average room rate of $115. This is the lower end of their ADRs that were published this year. I did not include additional income from venues. I used a 50% vacancy, and I used the highest cap rate that was in my range this year, even though I would call this a mid-scale or upper mid-scale property, because it is so special. It's an independent property. There's no flag. There's only a couple of rooms. I just felt more comfortable using that 9.5 cap rate. So that's really my presentation. I feel like we should sustain the value at $1,261,200. And I wasn't really provided any financials during the informal. It's hard to comp this property. I do want to highlight that I used a $10 leased for $10 square foot for all their retail spaces. CoStar places a square foot lease price of $11. That's kind of their market parameter there. But we see bike shops and restaurants in this area really lease for $15 to $18. So I felt like I was pretty fair with that $10 square foot rent anyway. That's it.
Okay, super. Brian, did you ever get yours?
Yeah, I did. I just, well, I'm looking up here and I'm seeing a total square footage on there of like 29,798 in the building area. And so I'm using that into the 1,261,000, I'm getting 4,232 square foot. You know, this building lost over $100,000 this last year. And what I did, and it may be, I mean, this value, you know, she may be more right than I am on this thing. And it's going to be because of the economies of scale, but you know, what I did is the overall values that I have, like I said, it's 4,232 a square foot, right? Is what we agreed. And so when I went through, I looked at other hotels, and so like the Clarion in Broken Arrow that this board heard this year is like $29.94 overall value. And I would assume they have a lot more, I mean, it's a lot newer hotel. I looked at the DoubleTree downtown. Of course, it's a huge complex. But it's at 3283. And so, you know, that's where I'm starting to get a little uncomfortable with my approach on this because of just the sheer size of the buildings. But, you know, we lost 38%. And so I'm thinking that the adjustment they made seems real fair, but I'd like to see it maybe closer to 38% because of the loss of revenue this year that they experienced. But good job. I mean, that's really great analysis. I like the way that was done. This, which one gave me? There, okay, Renaissance. And this is a fact. I mean, this is what a place, you know, I do a lot of banquets this place, and it came out, it's like at $40.58. And so I guess what I'd love to see is just the value per square foot on this smaller boutique hotel that really is a wholly different animal than what I'm giving you as comps. I mean, the only thing comparable about these is they both rent rooms. You know, this is really a unique property, but a property that's nearly 100 years old. That's been brought back from the dead, really. My client, you know, bought this thing as just a wreck and restored it. But my clients also restored most of 11th Street, up and down 11th Street without any assistance from the city or the county or anybody else. You know, there's other parts of town where you do remodels and they contribute to your deal. He's just done it out of the love of Route 66. But anyway, I just, you know, if the value stays the same, I won't be heartbroken. I think it's fair, but I still think it's out of line.
Your proposal essentially, even though she's not operating with the square feet, but the number you like for the square feet is the 32. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir. And I'll just give you what that would be. I didn't do the math, did I? 29. Well, I'm going blind. 29,798. Yeah, and so, I mean, that's like 953. So I'm probably at $1 million instead of $1,261,000.
I think you both have made good cases from two different perspectives. I'm willing to give you a little bit more from my perspective. I do think that it is this new classification, which we're going to see more of, I'm guessing, which is what I call boutique hotels. And they really, it's my opinion now. There's something better than bed and breakfast. And yet that's the most comparable experience that most people have with these kind of things. The twice that I've been in there were very special events, that is events that were being run by a relatively small community service organization. But I was very impressed with just the layout, when they got it done. They're a very efficient operation, is my impression. And I think they're doing that well with the restaurant too. If they want to, Brian, if your client is feeling somehow he can't get the message through, do a complete financial package next year and say, bring it all in, show it to the assessor's office, how he is trying to balance all this out. And I think you'll get a positive list. But we're just, you know, I'm again inclined to kind of split the baby. I think she's given you a lot.
Mhm.
My number would be maybe a little higher than yours, but not much. Charles, you're back working with us, aren't you? So tell me, what's your reading on this?
Sitting here trying to split the baby.
Okay.
Can I suggest a baby splitting technique?
You're terrible. We've got to come
So
up with
we've
another
seen
method.
our ranges for, 15 to 30% is the range, with the 30% kind of being held for these special properties. We've seen things like these massive properties like the DoubleTree and the Hyatt, which in my opinion have been kind of suppressed throughout the years anyway, received about 30%. So I think that if we do reduce this property, we should reduce it 6% more to a 30% overall reduction,
Okay.
which would be $1,152,000 even.
My number, I'm willing to move that on the suggestion of an agreement between the two presenters.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, these are unique properties with unique times, and, you know, this one's got its own set of problems. Biggest problem right now is trying to staff this.
I bet you.
That's gonna be a,
Right
you'll
now.
hear that all next year from me, I'm sure. The staffing is a big problem in that
What's
hospitality
the
sector.
number? I'll get it in a minute, but it's like 1,000,001. But Ruth, did you have any other?
Yeah, I'm in
insight?
agreement if she says that they're.
Yeah, that was the number, the percentage. was the one
I have a calculator, so.
Okay. Why don't you give me that number and I'll move it anyway.
It's $1,152,000 even.
Okay, 1,152,000 even, it's a 30% reduction on this property. I so move that we adjust to that number. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second to adjust 1,152,000 even as the fair market value. We'll vote as the roll is called.
Dr. Ketchel,
Yes.
Mr. Vanderwall,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines,
Yes.
Is there a water fountain close by?
Across the hall.
Somehow I caught myself. Thank you.
We have two items left on today's agenda, item 1360 and 1361. Both are listed as properties owned by H.W. Allen Company LLC, and they are commercial properties. Taking the first one, 1360. It is at 2740 East 21st Street. Since they're both owned, are these separate economic units or are they both the same?
They're separate.
We'll deal with them that way then. This one was previously on for 1,700,000. It was proposed after the informal to leave it at that. It says here in his appeal that he believes it should be corrected to 989,000 for the following reason: location. The subject property is located between an expressway and a long expressway entrance ramp. The location is 100% vacant. The property has experienced high vacancy ever since the Borders Books closed 10 years ago. Land, $15, should be valued below the office building to the north, which is 10. C 45275-93-08-24840 attached. Comp has traffic light access to 21st Street. All right, Brian, I know the property. I used to hang out at Borders
Yeah.
Bookstore all the
I
time.
think I saw you there.
Yeah.
Phil Allen is one of the Allen brothers that owns this, a lot of retail. And so he wrote this, and I thought I'd give you a moment just to kind of hear his side of some of the issues, but you're correct. This is a property that's was a Borders bookstore. And I think there was a little cleaning service in here.
Yeah.
And it's completely vacant now.
Okay.
It's used occasionally. Like at Christmas, they let some charitable organization use it. I probably ought to be filing an exemption for 2 months a year or something on it, but it's, if you recall Borders, I mean, just try to picture that as being a different use than Borders. It's a tough one. I'll be quiet for a second, let you look at
Read
that.
this. I'm gonna have to read it into the record, aren't I, or do I?
You keep that.
not necessarily,
Oh,
because
okay.
anything else that you're given, you don't read.
That's true.
verbatim.
Okay, board, if you don't mind, take a moment and then we can talk about it and highlight anything that you as an individual think we should I suppose, Byron, I'm a little curious, why are they, I mean, I understand the location, but it's visible in a great way as a marketing issue from the expressway, of course.
Yeah, and boy, but 10 years of vacancy.
I know,
But
that's
it's
what
also-
amazes me.
Could you go out just a little bit here so we could see the Midway Tower? You know, when you approach going either direction, I mean, obviously coming east on 21st Street, you can pull in.
Yeah.
But when it comes time to leave, if you want to turn left, you know, there is a median out here and you have pretty heavy traffic through here. Very, very difficult place to turn out of. As far as coming from this direction to try to turn left into this, I mean, good luck. What I noticed, you know, and I'm in this neighborhood a lot, I mean, coming on and off this expressway, but when you come off the Broken Arrow here, here's the exit ramp and here's my comp. And this one, you come right up here, here's a light. If you're officing in this spot, you can come out and you can turn, you can go west easily, or you can come out around this side and come in here and catch a left. I mean, it's really a superior location for ingress and egress. What I noticed is that this site's at $15 and this one's at 10. And it just didn't make sense to me that up hugging this, what we have is we have the expressway entrance ramp, you know, going around us here. And it just sort of, and I think that's why it doesn't run. I just think it's too darn hard. You would work to get to Borders, you know,
Yeah.
what else would you work to get to?
Sure.
And so that's the deal. I mean, we all want to go to Borders. It's kind of like Hobby Lobby. I mean, I find people will fight to get to Hobby Lobby that I represented for, you know, 30 years.
Yeah.
And we just, you know, sometimes we'd have a marginal location, but didn't hurt our sales. People have looked at this. We had one group looked at it, a charitable organization looked at it to buy it. And some of their donors came to see it. Their donors said, if you buy that, we're not funding. So it fell through. We've had a restaurant look at it. We had an emergency medical center look at it.
What is the turnaway point that all of these lookers never go to the next step? I mean, just look at that building, it's pretty decent.
Well, think about the inside though. I mean, I'm assuming you've been in Borders, you know, and you walk in and it just, you know, you go in and I mean, there's a balcony level to it, like a mezzanine level.
Yeah.
And an elevator. And so, you know, how do you cut it up? There's, you know, the only window, I don't know if there's any windows in this thing. I think there were some.
You know, the thing I always thought, I'm surprised they haven't found, because Charlie Mitchell's did real well in the area close around.
Yeah.
For years, and then he finally folded because he wanted to go south, you know.
Mhm.
But that would, but who knows? But I found myself trying to imagine how you would do something like
Boy,
that.
so's my client. you
Or
know.
the bigness would add to the, upscale thing. But
I mean,
nobody's found. a
we're
way
talking
to do
10 years. I mean, it's right. And I realize, you know, we've come back over and over and then we decided just not to, we didn't come back for a while.
Yeah.
Just to see, think, well, maybe something will happen. My guys are professional real estate guys and they rent space all over town and then there's some other cities and states. And so they're not, you know, they didn't just fall off the turnip truck. I mean, they've got them a deal here that
They can't figure
there's no
out
demand.
how to get it done. I
Yeah.
understand.
So it's a tough one. Anyway, so what I did, I mean, I looked at it and I just thought the $10 and $15 land value was really odd that right here. And I know the county's real reluctant to change land values. But the overall value, even the overall value is pretty similar between the two. And even over here with the office complex, because there's $15 land here, but it's right at the light. And that light makes a heck of a difference. Just a couple of things for you. I mean, it's, you know, so I tried to look around a little bit and, you know, the only other thing I found, I was looking for closed retail, you know, and surprisingly, as bad as things have been, you know, there's not a huge amount of closed, I mean, just shut down retail. There's some in centers and vacant spaces, but the Hobby Lobby at 51st and Harvard was one that I went and looked at. And it's, you know, it's at 51st and Harvard, which is a kind of a nice location, its overall value is 3671. And our overall value is right at just under $60 a foot. So that's my comp Hobby Lobby. And let me give you the subject and the property adjacent. You know, it is a strange one. I've pondered this one myself, trying to figure out what in the world is the problem. And all I can come up with is that access. And really the fact that, like I said, it would cost a fortune to, I mean, if Borders had moved back in, or if you get Barnes and Noble, yeah, they're gone. If you get Barnes and Noble, maybe to the bookstore, but I think, you know, Amazon took care of that.
But they're not the only ones that's shunning it. I mean,
No, I mean, we had, like I said, I think actually, Olive Garden
That's it.
takes part of it. Yeah, and then they decided it wasn't gonna work. And I don't know, I mean, I'm not sure about parking ratios or anything on this thing, but this, you know, this intersection and there's only, you know, that main entrance into it. You know, so it's a funny deal. I don't know. I wish I had the answer. I don't have, in all my years, in all the places I worked, I've never had one like this.
it seems like the market's speaking, but we don't know what exactly it's saying.
It's not.
I think, unfortunately, I'm afraid it was built for a particular model, and that model has failed now. Borders books, large discount book stores. I mean, Barnes and Noble is surviving by the skin of their teeth, as I understand.
Well, just go online and buy a book, you know, I still like going to the bookstores.
Yeah,
myself,
me
but-
too, but we're old school. All right, let's give the
Certainly.
tax assessor staff a chance to make this pitch. We gotta leave it here.
I'm Clark Sherman, Tulsa County. Let me get you what I have here. Cut to the chase on it, basically, the way we had looked at it was that we'd already reduced it to the point where it wouldn't be fair to reduce it any further amongst the community there, the other commercial properties in the area. The first page on my packet I gave you is pretty much what we've already discussed on it. Told, you know, the history of it, everything like that. If you move over to the second page, I've got a value summary for the last 10 years since Borders closed, and that just kind of illustrates how much it's been dropped over the last decade. As you can see, the improvement's been dropped by 89%. The overall value's been dropped 38%. So pretty much the constant's been the land value, as Byron discussed on that. I went in and put together a little map down at the bottom to show what the neighborhood looks like. Like he said, the property across the street's the outlier. It's $10. Everything else is 15 or higher. The only one that sold in the last time since then was the $25. And then if you go east from there, it's pretty much all residential from there, so that'd be comparable stuff on that. Then if you flip over to page 3 there, kind of did a comparison on the what the properties in the stretch there as far as the improvement value goes. It shows like we cut it down to $6 a square foot. That everybody else is higher, obviously. And then I did kind of an income approach at the bottom to reflect the distressed nature. I gave it high vacancy, high expenses, because like in a high cap rate, it's like I said, it's going to take a lot of money to get it going. If it does,
Yeah.
when somebody does want to invest in it, like I said, but at the beginning, we just felt that if we drop it any lower, it's not going to be fair to the equitable to the other taxpayers around there. Then the final page just had a LoopNet CoStar listing that they are still listing it for over $5 million on that, which take that, which will, but that's, but
That could be part of the problem.
That could be.
but basically that's all I have on it.
Zero offers to do anything, you know, I mean, the negotiated with, it was Meals on Wheels
Yeah.
was the one that looked at it.
Oh, I can imagine.
Heavy hitter. Yeah.
No, I can understand why their board said you must be kidding. It's, I don't know, guys, do other members of the Charles, you haven't been working today, you've been recused all this time, you get to solve this problem.
Well, there seems to be something just systemically wrong with it. Nobody wants it. Nobody releasing it, so. So I guess that's to say, well, gotta be somebody out there that at some price would come and get it, but,
It's the neighborhood difference that makes it hard, I think, for the county to say, well, God, what are we gonna do?
Well, sure it is. I mean, it's a 21st Street,
Yeah.
but this thing's up hugging the freeway. Now, if you go down to Harvard, maybe it should be a crematorium or something, you cremate people like they do the Harvard exit.
There you go, and now you have a model that you can work on.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a wedding. I mean, would it be something where you could do an event center, but
Events.
I would think smarter people than me.
The big events that I remember at that place was the midnight release of the Harry Potter novels. It was jammed on floors,
TMI on that.
Just need another Harry Potter. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Charles, do you have any number, do you think that we can afford to take it down at all? It's almost, it's location and land value right now that they got us down to $6 a foot for the building.
But nothing's happening at any
I
price.
know, that's the problem. So Ruth, what about you? You got any?
Well, I think we have to
wisdom on this
take note of the land value, meaning the 1,524,100. And when you look at, I don't see a reason to take it down just based on that one. I don't know why that $10 per square foot across where the Charlie Mitchell's used to be, is that?
one? Yeah.
It, to me, that would be a little bit more congested to get in and out around. So I wouldn't want to lower the land value.
I see.
So if we did lower the land value, we'd be put what on the building, just 200,000.
Of course, the other truth of the matter is if you were looking at it as a land value location for some entirely different kind of operation, you're stuck with having to remove the building.
That's
So you've
exactly
got an initial cost going in just to say, I want to put something there that's going to really work, but this building doesn't work.
No, and maybe, the depth, maybe the part of the problem is how deep that thing is. It's designed for a different purpose and it just may have lived its life.
I'm willing to come down some, but I'm kind of like you. All I'm doing is, again, just saying, well, let's try and give them a little relief while they hold on to the property, look for a buyer or a new. I could go, give them a couple $100,000 off and bring it down to 1.5. I admit that's just arbitrariness on my part, but
And the land value is 1,524. So
I
you
know.
take it lower than the land.
I'm taking it down to the land value. Well, 1.524, I could live with that. But that's all I'm really doing. I'm saying the building is a cost, not a benefit.
Well, and when I look at 15 here at the light and 10 here, and maybe 10's too low because of where it's located, and that's just a screw up on the county's part at $10. But maybe 14 is right, or 13, because it's not as nice a piece of ground as this. These that are $15 along there, they're superior to the subject because of the way we're shoehorned into that corner. But I understand it's not an easy one, but that's why we left it alone a couple of years thinking maybe if we don't say anything, it'll go away, but it didn't.
Okay, I will move 1.524. Was that what you said the land value was?
The land value is on there.
I will move that we adjust down to essentially the land value of $1,524,000. And some relief on this difficult property that the county still has to keep on the record. Is there a second to my motion to adjust? Oh,
I'll second.
oh, okay.
I
1 million.
thought my buddy was getting.
I thought she was too. She led me astray. Abandoned.
I don't think you could just discount the building.
I don't
see.
know. I think the market's speaking. and
Yeah, I do
something-
I
too.
think it's a goner. I think someday it's gonna be torn down.
I do too. All right,
It's
we
just not-
moved and we've got a second,
Okay.
so we're gonna vote as the roll is called to adjust to 1,524,000, essentially the land value.
Dr. Ketchel,
Yes,
Mr. Van Willen,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines.
Yes.
yes, this is the fair market value based on the land.
What is this CAD?
What's the what? Oh.
The Gilbert cat, the courthouse cat.
Oh, is that? Well, thought it was gonna walk in front of me.
Okay. And we got one more item on our agenda, the same company, it should be Allen Company LLC. This property is located at 3948 South Peoria. It was on previously for 4,527,900. After informal, they reduced it to 3,803,000. He's asking that it go down to 3,200,000 or $83.27 a square foot. Property is formerly a grocery store built in the 60s. The secondary use as a hardware store should be substantially lower than a newer operating grocery store in the same area. The subject property is valued at $98.96 per square foot. Walmart Neighborhood Market at 44th and Peoria is 97 per square foot. Reese's directly across the street is 91 per square foot. Requesting 83.27 per square foot. All right, what do you want to say, Brian?
Well, this was an old Safeway store. I don't know if you, I'll take you back a little bit, and
Yeah,
I grew up in Brookside, so Safeway used to be where Charleston's is.
yeah,
And then Safeway moved down the street, this great big store. There was a Safeway and a Kodak film deal, those were the days,
yeah.
and a Walgreens with a counter and a soda fountain. And I think Safeway became a roller rink or something. So I'm going back, that's why I'm saying this was early 60s. I think the county's saying 70s on the construction on this. But I mean, I was, I was a pretty little kid when this thing opened up. So I'm pretty sure this was about probably 1962, maybe, construction. And so it was a Safeway, and eventually Safeway grew and took over the whole building. And then Safeway, left Tulsa, but it left behind a number of Safeways. There were a lot of Safeway stores. The election board's an old Safeway. The Westlake Hardware, that's the same business as this, is at 61st and Lewis. But, it's a case of really a ruinous competition, because you had Albertsons come in and build across the street. Albertsons is now Reese's.
Yeah.
And then Whole Foods came in over on 41st, and then Neighborhood Market down the street. So I have probably worked 1,000 closed grocery stores in my day all over the country. Safeway was my biggest client. And I worked all the closed Safeways in the United States. And boy, I mean, I saw some really stupid uses of things. But in this case, we have a Westlake Hardware that's in there, and it's just not the same value when something's built for a certain purpose, and then it converts to a secondary use. I mean, there's a loss of value. The cost of building a grocery store is far greater than building a retail store, just simply because of all the systems that are inside, all the lines in the floor and the ceiling, and the just the way they're built. But
Well, that picture is suggesting your corner is totally unoccupied.
well, we leased the whole thing to Westlake, and they had subleased to the yeah. So that's gone.
What? Oh, it's gone.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I thought.
No, it's no longer there.
Yeah,
But I mean, when we look at it, it's just a lease to Westlake on the whole thing.
sure.
So just kind of same old deal here. I mean, here's the county record, just like you're looking at there. So I'm kind of duplicating that a little bit. And what I did is I looked down at Walmart. Now, the Walmart neighborhood market's a much newer store. It's a grocery store. And, and for some reason that price per square foot for comparison purposes on the Walmart is less than our closed grocery store that's now a hardware store. That doesn't make any sense to me. So that's the reason for the appeal. But then Reese's, one of my old clients as well, across the street, is a really nice store. It's a grocery store, built as a grocery store. It is a secondary use, but it's still a grocery store. Not a secondary tenant, it's Reese's instead of Albertsons. So that's, so I'm thinking that the 90, so I'm thinking that, I'm valuing the property pretty darn close to what a grocery store would be in the 80s. But so then I went looking around a little bit, and an inferior location to this is 51st in Peoria. And there was a grocery store in the corner there. And it sold in 2020 for just under $48 a square foot. Now, it's not as good as our location by any means. So I'm not trying to tell you this, but it is a grocery store that sold, I believe it's the church is who took that. There's a retail center across the street from it that's a great big center that's not a very good comp. I have Steinmart. The Steinmart store is closed at 51st and Harvard. Yeah, that's an old Safeway. That used to be a Safeway a long time ago. I remember you used to kind of leave town and go into the bypass. And then all of a sudden there was a grocery store. So Steinmart's at $73. Again, that's a grocery store for a different purpose. And I have one more for you. And this is a closed Safeway at 61st and Lewis. And just as luck would have it, the tenant's Westlake Hardware. Same tenant as this store.
51st and what?
61st and Lewis. Yeah, there was a Safeway there on the corner. These aren't very good copies. I apologize for that. So here's the same use. Now, obviously not as good a location is what we are. But I mean, it's on at $70 a foot. So I feel like my 80-something is really a kind of a reasonable request for a closed grocery. Oh, gosh. I mean, 20 years maybe? Well,
It's been several years. It's been Westlake.
yeah.
It's like 10 maybe.
Well, Safeway bailed on us a long time
Yeah,
ago.
but it's long on that.
Is that Peoria or?
Yeah.
Yes, it's
41st.
41st and Bureau, it's right at, yeah.
I always went to Best Hardware, but I can't do that anymore.
Yes, that's close.
Yeah, it's a shame. Those guys are all over at the Ace Hardware on 31st and Sandusky. So if you need that kind of service, they're still.
Mean best left,
The Best Hardware store closed.
really?
But some of the really helpful staff that was in that store went to Ace at
They were
31st,
always my guy.
across from Methodist Manor. You need,
I would go in there and think, how the hell are you gonna find anything?
they've really changed that store at 31st. Those guys went in there and made it look more like Brookside. But anyway, that's where we're coming from. We just feel like, it ought to be below the $90 foot level for that use.
All right, please go right.
Thank you.
This is a little bit of the case of like the last one that we discussed in some similarities with in the fact that I think the value here is the location and the land prices on it.
Sure.
After the informal appeal, we talked to Byron about the problems there and everything, being overvalued, and then so we reduced it by 16%. And then, as far as how we came to that, that idea was, first I did the income approach on it. I kind of reflected that even though that Jimmy's Egg didn't close till after the turn of the year, but they may not have been, I don't know what their contribution would have been during 2020, because a lot of those places were closed a lot of the time. But I went in and treated it as if it was vacant at that time. And then gave a higher, slightly higher expense rate than you get on triple egg usually. And then that's where we came up with 3,803,000. As far as the comps, some of those comps that he was showing to you guys, I've got on the chart underneath here, basically, and this kind of breaks it down by land and split and improvement values. As far as it's kind of, like I said, it's a little bit unique in that it's built as a grocery store and then converted to the other. But try to get some somewhat similar type properties there and show you how they're broken down. The value, it was kind of in the middle of it. As far as the research goes, that was being valued as it was still under construction. When they did their remodel. So that's going to go up this year. So I threw that as a comp because it's not in complete status right now. And then as far as the last page goes, I've got another map there showing what the land prices were there for everybody in there. It's the only person, or it's the only one on that corner that's not $35 a square foot. And they gradually get a little bit lower in land value as you go further south on Peoria. That's where that Walmart's in. So the difference on that overall is that the Walmart has a cheaper land price on it, as far as when you put them together. So after looking at all that, we decided it wouldn't be, once again, equitable to the other tax paying locations in the area if we lowered it any further than I did after the informal.
Yeah, I think again, this location, that may not be the best usage, but until we find a better client. But Peoria's, the Brookside area's got to be. I assume that it's got to come back. That whether it comes back for a hardware store, that's another matter. I don't
Oh, it'll be straight. I mean, this is a rebuild. So
Yeah, that's what I figured. But that, I can't imagine that 41st and Peoria
yeah, I
become
think
valuable again in some way.
the difference on our land value has got to be size. What do you think? I mean, because we're a real large parcel compared to the other ones.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Other comments, any insights here? He's asking for 3.2. That does take it down. I think it's, as you indicated, another 15%. So that's a big ask. 3.803 is already down 16% from where it had been previously. I don't know. I'm inclined to sustain this one myself. But what other insights, comments, questions do some of the rest of you to
What would 3,000,005 bring you to?
take it down another, what, 4 or 5%?
3,000,005.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Square footage.
28,000
38,
or 38. The other, 38
413.
or 30. 30.
Yeah, that's about $91 a square foot. Agreed, it's not highest and best use for that intersection, but it's the actual use, which is kind of what we're supposed to look at.
That part of town is blighted until they fix people in.
The real problem you run into down there, my guys are the guys that did Trader Joe's.
Yeah,
And what you run into when you try to redevelop down there, do you notice how high up Trader Joe's is? The city uses a different flood map down there than some other areas.
Is that why that's?
Yeah, and that wasn't in the flood map on anything, but then the city, when the building permit goes, hold it, we're using this flood map.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this and my guy's scared to death that when he redevelops this, it's gonna be the same thing. I don't know, it won't be like Burger King at 11th and Harvard, but there's some problems down there with flood zone.
it's better than it used to be, as they said. I can remember the big Memorial Day flood, right when I first came to town.
Today, my
back
son
in
was
the
born.
80s. But it's much better than that.
And my son was born that day, and boy, you talk about a crazy day. I lived on Joe Creek.
All right, you guys, anybody got a number other than, Ruth is proposing 3.5. Charles, what do you think?
I would second.
Okay, make the motions, you
I move
two.
that we set the fair market value of $3,500,000.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjust to $3,500,000 on this property. We'll vote as the roll is called to adjust.
Dr. Ketchel,
Yes,
Mr. Van Willen,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines,
Yeah,
this is the fair market value as determined by the board.
And it's only 325.
Thank goodness.
You can take the rest of the day off.
Yeah, I get to come home and cut my yards, but they tore my yard up so bad in the back. It's too hot to get out there to show.
Boy, it is hot today.
It's brutal.
Right, we are finally in summer.
Yeah,
Muggy.
All right, I think it's a move to adjourn. Is such a motion available?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
It's
So you go off
moved
your
and
time.
seconded. We'll vote to adjourn as the roll is called.
Dr. Ketchel,
Yes.
Mr. Van Willen,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines.